Introduction. At the break of dawn, the rugged mountain ranges of Sinaloa awaken, the sun casting golden hues over fields of opium poppies swaying in the gentle breeze. This fertile ground has long been a cradle for the Sinaloa Cartel, a testament to both nature's bounty and humanity's dark desires. Here, in the shadows of power, two names echo ominously: Joaquín, El Chapo Guzmán, and Pablo Escobar. These men, steeped in the lore of the drug trade, did not merely engage in an underworld of trafficking. They orchestrated a compelling narrative woven into the very fabric of geopolitics and social dynamics, one that challenges how we perceive crime, governance, and the moral complexities that define both. Guzmán and Escobar forged unlikely alliances with the very forces that sought to dismantle them, the American government. Their stories intertwine in a dance marked by calculated negotiations and devastating violence, revealing a world in which loyalty, power, and brutality coexist. This exposé delves into their lives, unpacking the historical context of their actions, the political ramifications of their deals with hues and Sinaloa authorities, and the human toll that their reigns inflicted on countless lives. As we explore the delicate interplay between criminals and the institutions of power, we confront the unsettling truth. The pursuit of power often unravels a fabric woven with ethical dilemmas and compromised ideals. Lives. Profiles in power. El Chapo, the kingpin and his kingdom. Joaquín Guzmán was born into poverty on April 4, 1957, amidst the lush yet unforgiving landscapes of Sinaloa. Raised in a community beset by enduring socioeconomic struggles, his upbringing was one of hardship and survival. His father, a farmer, imbued in him a belief in tenacity, but the environment around him bred a predator. By the time he entered the drug trade in the 1980s, Guzmán was already a product of a world where criminality intertwined seamlessly with daily life. His rise within the Sinaloa Cartel was marked not only by ruthless ambition but also strategic cunning. As he consolidated power, Guzmán employed a style of leadership characterized by both brutality and unexpected charm. He was a man who understood the importance of loyalty, investing in local community projects to bolster his image as a benefactor. A far cry from the orchestrator of violence that he was. Picture a clandestine meeting in a dimly lit cantina in Culiacán, where Guzmán first assembles his inner circle. The aroma of tequila fills the air as he speaks, his voice low yet commanding, weaving together dreams of empire building with cautionary tales of rivals. As shadows loom outside, the gravity of his words solidifies their allegiance, a bond forged not just from loyalty, but from fear. El Chapo's ascent fed into a broader narrative of political decay in Mexico. Under President Felipe Calderón, the government's heavy-handed approach to the war on drugs resulted in an escalation of violence unprecedented in history. Cartel wars erupted, claiming thousands of lives, and Guzmán's Sinaloa Cartel became a predominant force, deftly navigating governmental failures to establish itself as the alpha among rivals. A stark reminder of the vacuity of power in the face of organized crime. The Sinaloa Cartel catalyzed a complex economy that seeped into local governance. By controlling significant portions of the drug trade, Guzmán's influence altered labor markets and created an underground economy that both fueled local prosperity and perpetuated cycles of violence. For many, the cartel became the only viable option for employment, highlighting the tragic symbiosis between community survival and organized crime. Escobar. A different kind of king born in Rio Negro, Colombia, on December 1, 1949, Pablo Escobar emerged from similarly humble beginnings. While Guzmán's rise was marked by calculated brutality, Escobar's ascent was intricately tied to his ability to weave himself into the fabric of Colombian society. He was a man of contradictions, embodying the roles of benefactor and executioner. Simultaneously, his wealth funded schools and sports facilities, even as rival gangs fell prey to the violence he orchestrated. Quote, "To truly understand Escobar's influence, one must grasp the sociopolitical climate of Colombia during the 1980s. Amidst entrenched poverty, corruption, and a frail government, the Medellín cartel thrived, exploiting these vulnerabilities while simultaneously presenting itself as a savior to the disenfranchised. The socio-economic disparities in Colombia allowed Escobar to position himself as a local hero who could not only dream of wealth but also build a legacy through social welfare initiatives. Envision a bustling marketplace in Medellin where Escobar mingles among the people, sharing stories and laughter, leaving behind bags of money for community projects. His charisma is palpable, wrapping around the hearts of onlookers as they see a glimpse of hope amidst dire circumstances. A charismatic king whose reign was simultaneously noble and tyrannical. Escobar's dealings presented a significant challenge for the Colombian government and its relationship with the United States. The rise of the Medellin cartel led to an increase in violence and prompted U.S. intervention. Following Escobar's assassination in 1993, the vacuum of power left behind resulted in chaos, giving rise to even more violent factions, eternally altering the trajectory of Colombian politics and society. The economic implications of Escobar's rule were realized not just in terms of personal wealth amassed, but also in the normalization of illicit economies. The narcotics trade permeated through every aspect of Colombian life, reshaping societal norms and economic opportunities. As the drug trade flourished, it led to a flourishing yet dysfunctional economy that divided societal loyalties and created parallel structures of power. The mysterious deal El Chapo's agreement with the U.S. government as the world turned its eyes toward the crisis of terrorism after 9/11, El Chapo navigated a cunning political landscape. In 2014, the unexpected specter of cooperation emerged when reports surfaced of Guzmán negotiating with UBWNS intelligence about the threat of terrorist organizations operating in Mexico. This deal must be seen within the broader framework of U.S.-Mexican relations marred by the war on drugs. U.S. agencies became increasingly aware of how drug trafficking and terrorist activities intersected. The growing chaos in Mexico, along with terror threats, created fertile ground for Guzmán's unprecedented collaboration, a devil's bargain that played into the hands of both. The moral questions surrounding this arrangement were staggering. Could the U.S. government justify bargaining with a known criminal for intelligence? How did the implications of such a deal affect the ethical frameworks governing law enforcement? What does it mean to ally with the devil when the enemy appears at your front door? Picture a clandestine meeting in a sterile hotel room, agents of the DEA sharing cautious glances as they discuss terms with Guzmán's representatives. The tension is palpable as El Chapo's operatives explain the stakes, understanding the delicate balance of power that could tip the scales in his favor as he offers information on threats that could destabilize both sides. In analyzing Guzmán's persona, one sees a master manipulator aware of his surroundings, his motivations rooted not just in self-preservation, but also in bird's-eye calculation of power dynamics. Play. U.S. agents, equally aware of their precarious position, may have been entrapped in the morality of their actions, weighing the greater good against their allegiance to law. The repercussions of El Chapo's deal with U.S. intelligence rippled through Mexico. Fearing reprisals from rival cartels who might seize the opportunity created by UW's involvement and bolstered by their newfound alliance, Guzmán ramped up his operational capabilities, creating cycles of violence that bred further chaos. Escobar's deal with the DEA amid escalating violence and disruption. Pablo Escobar approached the DEA with an audacious proposition assisting law enforcement in targeting rival traffickers in exchange for immunity from extradition. The political landscape of Colombia in the 1980s was marred by violence, setting the stage for Escobar's gambit. In a country where the state often faltered, his offer seemed to present a pragmatic solution to a public desperate for stability, albeit a facade of cooperation built on exploitation. The sheer complexity of Escobar's negotiations posed ethical dilemmas for U.S. agents. How does one navigate cooperation with a murderer while attempting to uphold the law? The decision to engage with criminal enterprises questioned the integrity of law enforcement. Does the end justify the means? Imagine the bustling corridors of the DEA headquarters as agents deliberate whether to accept Escobar's offer. The sound of tapping keyboards blends with murmurs of skepticism and fear. What if the deal backfires? The heft of their choices looms large as they grapple with the moral weight of potentially legitimizing Escobar's empire. Escobar showcased a duality that made him both a ruthless antagonist and a charismatic figure. His willingness to court favor with U.S. officials illustrated his strategic brilliance, revealing an understanding of power negotiation that was both cunning and desperate, an embroiled dance with fate that ultimately spiraled into chaos as the stakes escalated. The fallout from Escobar's death created unforeseen challenges, thrusting Colombia into further turmoil. The assassination led to a renewed crackdown from the state, but it also allowed rival factions to coalesce, resulting in an even more fractured political landscape, a harrowing reality of how power vacuums escalate violence. The geopolitical game hues. Foreign policy in Latin America throughout the decades. The landscape of U.S. foreign policy toward Latin America has oscillated between interventionism and neglect, particularly in response to the drug trade. American political decisions were often motivated by a desire to curtail the flow of narcotics while simultaneously addressing emerging threats that cross ideological lines. Rooted in Cold War sentiments, the U.S. response to drugs evolved alongside shifting geopolitical narratives. The American war on drugs intensified during the 1970s and peaked in the 1980s when cartels like Medellin and Sinaloa emerged as significant threats. Political and military interventions would often yield mixed results. While some strategies aimed to dismantle cartels led to significant arrests, they frequently exacerbated local violence. Funding local law enforcement without addressing systemic corruption has often resulted in brutal cycles of repression, rather than any meaningful resolution to the narcotics issue. Envision a high-stakes congressional hearing in Washington, D.C., where politicians, analysts, and agents confront a room filled with the ghosts of lost lives. The fervor of debate fills the space with urgency, as the haunting impact of drug-related violence casts long shadows in these halls, the echoes of societal decay reverberating through congressional chambers. Within this complex contradiction, the actions prompted by the U.S. government provoked backlash. Failed policies led to instability that was felt across borders. Militarized strategies often heightened the violence in Mexico, while sending shockwaves through the sociopolitical fabric. Local pride and international scrutiny combined to create a volatile landscape that influenced both American citizens and Latin Americans alike. Impact on sovereignty and control. The intervention seen through U.S. policy highlight a struggle for sovereignty, raising questions about the implications of American engagement in Latin American affairs. The implications profoundly affect local governance, revealing how drug cartels can usurp power while the state falters. The sovereignty of nations like Mexico and Colombia was irreversibly altered as foreign powers injected their policies into local contexts. The lines separating governance from criminal influence became blurred, creating a layered complexity that reveals the dark underbelly of power politics, control, and societal fragility. The infiltration of cartels into local economies reshaped labor markets and societal norms. In cartel-controlled regions, legitimate business practices faced competition from drug money, distorting economies and binding communities in cycles of dependency and fear, further complicating efforts to establish trust and enshrine lawful governance. Picture a bustling marketplace in a small Mexican town where merchants trade goods beneath watchful eyes. Here, drug money influences everything. Blurring ethics and legality conversations arise not from customer transactions, but fear, loyalty, and the precarious balance of power. The impact of living under the looming specter of cartel influence manifests in the mental health of residents. Spiraling fear, normalization of violence, and erosion of trust within society. The psychological toll becomes a crucible where community and individual identities wrestle with survival amidst chaos. The cost of convenience, human toll, and societal impact. As the narratives of El Chapo and Escobar unfold, it becomes painfully apparent that the human toll of their reigns is staggering. The widespread violence perpetrated by both men created ripple effects that extended far beyond the cartels. The histories of Sinaloa and Medellin are inextricably linked to the human cost of the drug trade, a tapestry woven with loss, grief, and mourning, highlighting the endless cycles of violence perpetuated by the pursuit of power. Imagine a greeting family in Sinaloa, gathered in the dimly lit confines of their home, clutching photographs of a lost loved one. The room is heavy with unspoken sorrow as the realities of narcoviolence seep in, echoes of laughter now replaced by the haunting silence of absence. Each testimony a reminder of a life halted, of dreams unfulfilled. The emotional scars left by violence manifest not only in individual families, but also across entire communities. Chronic trauma breeds an environment where fear prevails over hope. Psychological studies reveal how living in such conditions reshapes societal behavior. Lessons from history reflecting on the legacies of Guzmán and Escobar prompts a deeper inquiry about the broader implications of their stories. What can we learn from the past when understanding the intricacies of drug trade and power dynamics? The paths taken by El Chapo and Escobar serve as a cautionary tale about the cyclical nature of violence and the fragility of governance in the face of powerful interests. The interplay of personal ambition and community devastation raises pressing questions about the capacity of law and structures to safeguard the vulnerable. Close with the somber imagery of Sinaloan landscapes, where the horizon blurs between beauty and brutality, a juxtaposition of nature unaffected by the turmoil of human ambition. As the sun sets, local community members gather to honor lost lives, a collective remembrance enveloped in reverence, a testament to resilience amidst devastation. The fragile peace, the devil's bargain struck by El Chapo and Escobar yield profound insights into the intertwining of criminality and power. Their narratives extend beyond mere crime stories. They illuminate the persistent struggle between governance and organized power, an exploration of human frailty against ambition. As the narrative of the war on drugs unfolds, it leaves in its wake the haunting realization that the solutions sought often become entangled in further complexities. The cycle of crime, governance, and societal turmoil remains an ongoing battle. The stories of these two tyrants serve as reminders that as long as inequality and oppression persist, the dance between power and crime will continue, echoing through history as a solemn reminder of humanity's struggle to find peace amidst chaos.